In essence, what this means is that we will continue to see the Zimbabwe dollar operating side by side with foreign currencies right up until 2030. We're now joined on the line by economic analyst Blessing Nyatanga for insights on this particular subject. Blessing, good afternoon. Tell us, what is your position on this particular subject? Should Zimbabwe maintain the use of this multi-currency regime, and does Zimbabwe actually need its own currency?
On the aspect of why Zimbabwe should have its own currency, I think the most imperative reason for having own currency is to accord the central bank liberation on money supply. The use of a multi-currency system limits the central bank from controlling the contraction and expansion of money in circulation. And secondly, I think there is need for sovereignty, because another challenge of using a foreign currency is lack of sovereignty, and that is the ability to make decisions using our own local currency. Relying on foreign currencies limits Zimbabwe's ability to pursue economic policies independently.
Again, Blessing, against the context of the fact that it's difficult for you to transact using the Zimbabwe dollar beyond the borders of Zimbabwe. In fact, you can't transact using the Zimbabwe dollar, be it in South Africa or through formal channels. You can't transact using the Zimbabwe dollar in the United Kingdom, in Canada, in Oman, or anywhere else in the world. The question is, what then becomes your stance given the complexities and the stigma attached with the Zimbabwe dollar beyond the borders?
As the Zimbabwean government seeks to establish stability in the local currency, I think it is also important to manage the cost of borrowing. Given the interest rates that have gone up as high as 130%, I think it is important to reduce these interest rates and encourage borrowing, which stays production. I think high interest rates are not exactly good for business, because they discourage entrepreneurs, they discourage businesses from getting funds from banks and other financial institutions, which actually slows down production. So I think it is important to also manage the cost of borrowing and ensure that interest rates are affordable, and you have many businesses, many entrepreneurs going to banks for loans, and that actually improves our production and ultimately.
Thank you, Blessing. Always a pleasure having you on the program. We're now joined again on the line by Zikomborero Sibanda, an economist with the Zimbabwe Coalition on Debt and Development. Good afternoon, Zikomborero. I'll pose the same question to you that I posed to Blessing, to say, does Zimbabwe need to maintain the use of the Zimbabwe dollar? And what is your position in the context of the multi-currency system?
I think any country all over the world needs that monetary policy arm for economic management. You know, we can't just manage the economy based on fiscal policy where we are only looking at government taxation and spending alone. So we also need to have another arm from the monetary front to actually complement the fiscal policy in trying to manage the economy during the periods of booms and even depressions. So that's number one, why we really need that. Then also, number two is the fact that, you know, that national pride, you know, just to citizens, economic agents just having their own currency, a stable currency, transacting in Zimbabwean dollars, it gives that sense of pride, and that instills confidence in the market. Then, of course, another key chief reason for, in case of Zimbabwe, is we really need our own currency because of the negative impacts of dollarization, which we have experienced in 2019, thereabout, number one being the issue that if you are using a US dollar, which is actually a more stable currency and on global demand, it means that it makes, because Zimbabwe, we have our peers in the region, we have South Africa, Botswana, and other countries in the region, and they are actually operating using their own currency, which are relatively weak compared to the US dollar. And Zimbabwe are using the US dollar. So in terms of trading, you're saying it brings imbalance because it makes Zimbabwean produced goods more expensive relative to. That's why you see whenever we are dollarizing, exports increases. And the statistics from Zimbabwe, I mean, the Zimstats is showing just...
Zico, the conundrum is that the Zimbabwe dollar has struggled to find some degree of stability. And of course, the currency did shed about 90% against the US dollar in 2023. And now we are beginning to see a widening in terms of the parallel market premiums, with the Zimbabwe dollar operating at premiums of up to 80% on the black market. What then is your position given this particular matrix?
In terms of our current outlook, you see, since we introduced the local currency, reintroduced it in 2019, and government has been implementing various policy measures since then to try to stabilize the local currency. And normally, in economics, what economists say that normally to stabilize the economy, which is the currency and prices, just need 2 to 3 years. But you look, since 2019, we are now more than 5 years, and we are not seeing any stability whatsoever. But recently in May last year, June, when government instituted various policy measures, we witnessed some sense of stability for 2 to 3 months before we started to see again increased volatilities in the economy in terms of currency and prices. So looking forward to this year, I'm seeing that, look, since we are still in January and we are saying that the currency has lost more than 50% of its value. And we are saying, given the outlook, which actually many economists are predicting, it's just not a good outlook, because we are talking about El Nino-induced drought, where in terms of rainfall patterns are not moving, are not actually good, because they're projecting normal to below normal rainfall. So this is going to impact us. We are talking about issues to do with foreign currency shortages in the formal markets. We are talking about even electricity. Electricity shortages, even pricing, fuel, everything is actually being seen in the negative side. So having a stable currency when the macroeconomic outlook is actually, it seems bleak, it becomes challenging for authorities. So to me, I don't think the Zimbabwean dollar is going to stabilize this year.
Thank you, Zikomborero, for joining us live on The Mint.
Konapo, ipapo pa ZTN Prime, DSTV channel 294, the place to be.